My name is Bruno Moreland and I teach AP African American Studies, and in this series I'm going to go over all the required sources for the AP African American Studies curriculum. And today we're looking at Unit 1.7 about religious syncretism and indigenous cosmologies. A quick note about terminology before we begin and why we're using the word cosmology instead of religions. Cosmology is meant to refer to the indigenous spiritual system, the way in which people in Africa have come to understand the evolution and the fate of the universe and the world around them. Initially, when Europeans encountered Africa and they were describing the religious systems there, they were doing so in a way in which they brought their own bias and their Christian adherence to judge the religious systems that they found. Often they describe those systems as animistic, meaning that the different elements in nature hold some form of spirit. And they did this in a way to disparage the religious systems or the cosmology that the people that they encountered had. Additionally, the word syncretism here refers to the blending of different belief systems, and we're going to see how different belief systems from across the continent of Africa blended into other religious practices as they encountered Christianity and Catholicism. So the first source for this topic is the Yoruba Oshe Shango. This is a staff that was used during dances and rituals that was meant to honor the Yoruba orisha or god Shango. Shango was the orisha of thunder, fire, and lightning. And as you can see here on the staff, there are two stone axes at the very top of it, meant to symbolize thunder and the power of Shango. Below that, there is a physically mature woman holding a snake in the shape of a U below that. The woman is bare-chested, and it's meant to signify that she is fertile or has the capability of having children. Shango, because of his backstory, as we'll see later on, is usually associated with virility, and so praising or showing devotion to Shango would usually result in the blessing of having children. So remember the imagery and the importance of Shango as we go ahead and look at the other sources. Next source is a video of a song and dance performed by an Afro-Cuban group called Grupo Avilon, and it's titled Oshe del Monte. The part that the College Board refers us to is a 4-minute clip between minutes 36 and 40. It is the start of a song called Yemayá. So Yemayá also refers to the name of another Yoruba orisha or god. Yemayá was the goddess of the ocean. And it's significant here because they're praising this orisha in the Caribbean, in Cuba. So that means that the religious practices that originated in Western Africa were held onto by the people that were enslaved and sent to the Caribbean. So because Yemayá is the goddess of the ocean, you see a lot of that symbolism in the dance. The woman who's meant to portray Yemayá is wearing a blue dress, and then the way in which she's dancing and uses the dress to flow, it's meant to recreate the flow of the ocean and the waves. At various points in the video and in the dance, she speeds up her dancing almost to symbolize stormy waters, and also spins around in a circle quite quickly, which could be interpreted as a hurricane happening in the Caribbean. Members of the African diaspora in the Caribbean continued to practice their religious practices from Africa. They also mixed their practices with the new religions that they encountered or that were forced upon them, like Catholicism. And so Yemayá is often syncretized with the Virgin Mary, a figure in Christianity or the Catholic Church. Later on, other religions spun out of this, like Santeria and Candomblé, and Yemayá is also a central figure in these two syncretic religions. These are religions that came out of the blending of Catholicism and Yoruba traditions. Even though the College Board only asks us to look at the clip between 36 and 40 minutes, the song that follows Yemayá is actually a song called Shango, and it's meant to refer to the Yoruba orisha Shango, the same one that we saw the staff for. And in this dance, you see a man standing with an axe, and as he begins to dance, there's a rooster dancer that comes up to him and lays down as he is sacrificing himself to the god, and so then the god begins his dance, and the singers continue to call upon him to continue to dance. Notice that when he's dancing, he's taking really big and heavy steps that are almost to signify the thunder and the lightning that he's supposed to represent. And then the final source in this topic is a painting called Oshe's Betrayal that was painted in 2020 by the artist Harmonia Rosales. This painting again depicts 3 different Yoruba orishas. One of them we've already met. The figure on the far right is Shango, the god of fire, thunder, and lightning. And it tells the story of unrequited love amongst these different orishas. So the other 2 orishas that are portrayed here are Ogun on the far left, and the female figure in the middle is Oya. Ogun is the god of iron, war, labor, and technology, and Oya is the goddess of storms, winds, last breaths, rebirths, and change. Now, the story goes that Oya and Ogun were originally married together, but one day Oya encounters Shango and they fall in love. They start this love affair. Oya becomes pregnant with Shango's child. When Ogun finds out, he's enraged and he challenges Shango to a duel, that this major war that had the possibility of destroying the entire world because they're such powerful gods. And it took the intervention of other orishas to prevent this war from happening. Eventually, Shango and Oya continue their life together, and she is his most devoted wife, so much so that by the time that Shango disappears or mysteriously dies, Oya's grief turns into her continuing to weep, and her tears turn into the Niger River. So the story is not just significant because of the story that it continues to tell of these orishas and the way in which they interact with each other and the powers that they have, but it's also significant because of all the different arch tradition that it shows within the painting. The arch that you see in the background of the painting is a reference to old Renaissance style of art, mainly the painting school of Athens. The golden halos are not necessarily part of Renaissance art, but they are common amongst European Christian art, and they're usually used to denote someone who is holy or saintly within the painting. And here they're being used to denote that these are deities within the Yoruba cosmology. Inside of those halos, there are the names of each of the orishas written inside of it in 3 different languages: Spanish, Portuguese, and Yoruba. And that's meant to denote the people across the diaspora that continue to believe in this cosmology. There's also pomegranates that are painted on the ground of the painting, and these are a reference to Greek and Roman mythology, where the pomegranate is a symbol of fertility or an invocation of the goddess Venus, who is the goddess of fertility. So you see that all these 3 required sources kind of speak together and show the evolution of how the cosmology and the belief system of people in Africa, mainly around the area that is modern-day Nigeria, was spread through the transatlantic slave trade and then blended with other religious practices that were encountered, and they continue to blend and show that syncretism to the modern day with the painting Oshe's Betrayal, painted in 2020. All right, that is it for this topic. I hope you come back for the next topic when we go over 1.8, Culture and Trade in South and Eastern Africa. Thank you.